Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me. This is Abigail Addison, and once again, we are on the ABBY IMANI REVEALS show. You're all very welcome. Thank you so much for making time to join us this evening. I'm delighted to see all of you. Hopefully, the rest will join us not too late, I hope. Okay, so before we go on, I would like us to pray. I'll call on Diodorus. Can you hear me? Hello. Hello, Diodorus. Okay. Hello. Okay. Can you please pray with us if it's possible? Hello. Okay. It seems he's having some issues. Paul, can you please pray with us? Hello, Paul.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm here, Avi. Great. Please let's pray. Father, we thank you for tonight and for the opportunity to come to the place of learning and understanding. We pray that you shall grant us even more understanding to the things that we discussed today. We commit the speaker into your hands, that you grant him utterance and wisdom to communicate the things that we need to know tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. So once again, this is the ABBY IMANI REVEALS show. This is where we speak, we are real so that we can live. And not just live any life, but the abundant life that Christ has given us. And we are shifting from marriage. For some time now, we've been treating the topic marriage. And we've had a number of couples coming on to share their experiences. Now we've shifted on, like I said, the train has gone to a different track and we are on entrepreneurship. And I'm so glad to have a phenomenal person here. I listened to him, I was like, wow, if only all of us will have such resilience, a lot will change in our country and in our lives. We have Mr. Emmanuel Awumee coming to talk to us about his journey as an entrepreneur, to teach us real life lessons, not hearsay. So I won't say much. I'll allow him to introduce himself. I sent you his profile, so you know a bit about him, but he'll say a little bit about himself, and then he'll just launch into it. Then after that, as always, we'll have our Q&A. Prepare all your questions. While he's talking, if you have any questions, you can either type it or you hold on when we get to the Q&A session. You can ask him all the questions. Please do not hold back. This is a very, it's a great opportunity to learn. So let the questions flow so that we can all learn. All right, so Ms. Awumee, please, the floor is yours.
All right. And good evening to you and good evening to the team of listeners that are online to be part of this program. And I want to thank you so much for the honor and privilege that me to share my journey in entrepreneurship with my fellow colleagues here in Ghana and abroad. Good. Now, I'm grateful for this opportunity, and as we also have Christian base as we speak to entrepreneurship. My name, as he introduced, I'm Emmanuel Awumee. I'm the lead facilitator for Cecil Entrepreneurial Coffee Session, and I'm the CEO of Cecil Ventures. Now, Cecil Ventures is a car care consultancy organization. We add value to vehicles, so you can get a good resale value for your vehicle after you've bought it. So we maintain and specialize in the interior and exterior aspect of cars. And this business has been in existence for over 2 decades, established right here in Ghana, nurtured from a cashless base, and have been nurtured through a period of over 2 decades. Now, as a result of the experiences gotten through its establishment, It's actually experienced very good moments and also experienced very, very bad moments. There are sections where for the period of like 20 plus years, I went bankrupt for a period of like 4 years within that space of time. And you can imagine what it was like, where I was working by the day, thinking of my next meal. So I was living my life by the day, by the minute, and almost by the second, across the moments. And I was able to resurface to come back to where I am now in the pace of 9 years after my failure. So meaning within the first 8 years, business was good, and then I went bankrupt. I'll be sharing some thoughts along the line, how I went down the drain, as a result of business within the entrepreneurial space, and have to be able to resurface and have sprung back in a period of 9 years. And so a lot have happened. And so I realized that one of the major factors that led to my failure in business along the line was as a result of lack of information, not lack of capital, lack of information. And so it led me to the situation where I tend to tell most startup entrepreneurs that one of the major capital they need to be able to sustain their businesses is information and not cash capital. Now, you will get to understand that even as I elaborate further. And so, having gone through all this, I realized I have a responsibility and a duty to the next generation of entrepreneurs, to share my journey with them so they don't make much of the mistakes I might have made, that has led me to the wrong way, but then their learning curve will be short. And so I established a foundation called the Cecil Entrepreneurial Coffee Session, which is a human capital initiative in entrepreneurship. And so I authored a book to that effect, also relating to my journey, which is full of a lot of failures and a lot of gains as well. And so today, speaking to entrepreneurship, I want to focus a lot on failure and challenges in business, failure and challenges in entrepreneurship, because it is almost very obvious that once you are in business, you will be encountering failures and challenges. However, most people are unable, especially startups, are unable to go beyond 5 years from their business inception. When you are able to cross the 5-year mark into 10, into 15, into 20, I believe you might have shared part of my story. It's not an easy journey. And Christians, as we are, most often, when we go through some of these challenges and failures, we want to attribute it to demonic attacks and other aspects of the evil world. But then I don't relate failure and challenges to that much. I see failure and challenges as learning curves when it comes to business. And now, there are some mistakes I obviously made along the line that led me to the failures. And so I wouldn't want to attribute that to demonic attacks, but I want to attribute that to lack of knowledge and probably ignorance at certain extent also. And so I admit my failures when I make them, and I try to take the step to correct them as I move along, backing up with prayers anyway. But then one of the challenges most people tend to have is not being ready to acknowledge their mistakes. And that keeps them in their problems for a very long time. But then one secret I found about myself was that when you make mistake and you acknowledge it, it makes resolving it much easier, because you tend to focus a lot more attention on resolving the problem than brooding over the challenges. And so I'm going to focus a lot on the failures that we make and how to overcome some of these failures in our businesses. So it's as a result of trying to have a sustainable business. Now, to set up a business might not be too challenging. You might have an idea, you might have a product, you might have a service that you are going to market out there. But then the question is, how are you going to be able to sustain these ideas, products, and services that you are providing? That is where the main crux of the matter is when it comes to entrepreneurship, sustainability and growth. Business development, you might easily be able to get it right, but to sustain that business is where the challenges are. So I always say that you need to become a master of solving challenges and overcoming failures. Then you are going to be a master in entrepreneurship, because it will always be staring at your face when you get to the grounds in entrepreneurship. And so just to share a bit of my story that we're going to use for the conversation, you can then relate that to your business or whatever sphere you find yourself in, and out of it, we could ask questions, and then the various aspects of the life line comes in. So having run my business for over 2 decades, within the first 8 years, for instance, it was quite successful, very successful. And then in the pace of 8 years, I had about almost 5 branches established in 8 years in the inception of my business. Now, one of the branches, when it got to the stage to establish it, I had to meet this business person who was supposed to rent a space for me to establish my business. We came into a verbal agreement for me to pay 300 Ghana cedis a month for 2 years. Now, as our society have it, this was a verbal agreement which was subject to documentation. And as our society have it, we give reverence and respect to the elderly and the prominent ones. So you don't seem to want to doubt their integrity. And so this man got me into this contract. And so he gave me the leeway to establish the business on his property. I gathered my internally generated funds and also went for 2 bank facilities to join before establishing the outlet on his property. That was worth about 40,000 Ghana cedis around 2008. Now, upon completing this project, he allowed me to operate for barely a year, thereabout. And so he invited me to his office for us now to document the agreement. Now, when I got to the office, he handed over to me the agreement document. Upon going through, I realized the figure of 300 Ghana cedis that we agreed upon have changed to $500 for 2 years. Now, so instead of the 300 Ghana cedis for 2 years, it is now $500 for 2 years. I mean, I tried to draw his attention to the fact that that wasn't what we verbally had agreed upon. But this man wouldn't want to budge to any of this and insisted that is the figure I need to pay, the 500 cedis for 2 years, $500 for 2 years. In fact, it dawned on me heavily in his office, and it was like I almost went off. Actually, I just saw the end of my life sort of right in the office of this man. He insisted I pay that because he doesn't take anything less than $500 for renting out his properties. So he gave me 3 months to pay the entire amount, or I fold up. Meanwhile, I had budgeted for the 300 Ghana cedis a month for 2 years. And so that was the amount I had. Paying that amount was only able to cover about 1 year on the property. And so the other 1 year, there was no way I was going to be able to raise it because I had already taken 2 facilities from the banks and had exhausted my internally generated funds, and so didn't have enough to be able to pay. And so I had to end up folding up. Now, upon folding up, what it meant was that the other branches were unable to sustain the business. And in order not to incur extra rent costs to the other branches of the business, I had to close down 4 of them, leaving 1. All right, so 4 of them leaving 1. And even the 1, it was a challenge to manage that. So at a point, I almost have to even sell off. I got to the point of selling off the company so that I can generate revenue out of there to pay off the banks, because they also started chasing me for their money. Okay, so a lot has to happen in that space. I had to go bankrupt, manage to get an investor to come on board, partner him to try to manage the business, whilst I try to find out where I made the mistake, right? So at that moment, I realized I made a mistake in the area of over expanding within the short pace of time by opening 5 branches within 8 years. That led me to the situation where I didn't have enough financial backing to be able to cushion me out of the challenges. So that was my first mistake. All right. So that means I lacked financial management knowledge, and that led me into that situation. The second mistake I made was I should have insisted to document the agreement from the onset. All right. So I made another mistake over there, trying to legalize the agreement, put it into document before I put in an investment of that much on somebody's property. Okay. So having realized and recognized some of these things, I realized I have lost it all, lost everything I had. I even lost my marriage in the course of that situation. Okay, so properties I had, my cars and everything, I have to let out most of them. And then it became a daily survival thing for me. But then what I realized at that moment was that I was still young and life was still ahead of me. There was no way I was going to take my life. I was still going to survive. And so to survive, that means I need to take a step to ensure that I'm able to secure my future. And how do I do that? I can only do that by correcting the mistakes and the losses and lapses I have in my life, re-ground myself and launch again. So one of the measures I took was to go back to school, to go and enrich my knowledge in financial management and then administration. Already I have done engineering back at school. I graduated from UST School of Mines as an automobile engineer. I did the technician level. And so I had to now do my degree from the university to be able to add knowledge to my craft and be able to now manage it. So this gives the indication that you can have a product, you can have a service you're running, but that is not enough. You need managerial skills to be able to sustain and manage those products to succeed. So I successfully went through my university education, came back, and then managed to launch out of the country to go and advance my knowledge in the car detailing business I'm running now. So after I came back, I launched it back in the year 2012. And by the grace of God, the business have revamped and I'm back on my feet. So this is a brief. There are other failures that we'll be sharing along the line, even as the questions pop out, then I'll be chipping it in so to make the conversation more richer.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Mr. Awumee. Wow, this is really serious. You actually lost your marriage because of the job that went down.
Yes.
Oh, sorry about that. I'd love you to tell us. I mean, you took, I didn't send you the flyer, but I was telling everyone how you took what we consider a menial job.
Okay.
And you just made it into phenomenal business.
Business, okay.
On that journey.
All right, good. So when I was out of school, as will be for every graduate coming out of school, you are sending out applications to various organizations here and there to need to be employed. And none was really coming. Now, I happen to have won a bronze medal from the City and Guilds of London Institute when I took up my technical education, when I graduated. So apparently that at least gave me the knowledge that there was something good I could do with my life. So if I'm not getting any organization to employ me, then I need to take the plan B of making sure I take my destiny into my hands to plan for my future. And so what I did was I needed capital to start this business that I'm operating now, but the means was not there. My family didn't have it. Friends and family were nowhere to be able to raise that money to support me. And so what do I do? Do I need to stay at home and keep waiting for someone to employ me, or I need to start something of my own? And so there is also this stigma towards persons who take up technical education and also persons who work within the informal sector, but then I felt I needed to challenge the status quo and be able to prove some of these societal myths wrong, that for someone to pick up technical vocational education does not necessarily mean that the person is academic deficient. And then two, thinking that jobs within the informal sector are not worthy of a sort for a graduate to pick up a job in that sector. And so I decided to want to really challenge the status quo and prove some of these myths wrong. So what I did was to leverage on my talent, God-gifting talent, and sum it up or top it up with some of the academic knowledge I have garnered. So I decided to be walking to offices and giving them proposal of being an office setup consultant. And so this inculcated all sorts of equipment or materials that you can find in an office. So from office stationery right down to office partitioning, office fixing of vertical blinds in offices, supplying office furnitures and all that. I do that. Meanwhile, I did not have a single shop anywhere that has these things. So my strategy was, I was coming to identify what you need in your office, propose it to you, and then I go out there to a vendor who markets these things, and then strike a deal with that vendor. I've got a contract here. Can you please supply those products, put my margin on it, and give me my profit? Okay, so this was the marketing strategy I adopted. And I was able to get some contracts here and there, send it to these vendors. They do the supply and give me my commission. So I had to do this through a period of about 5 years to be able to raise money to buy my first machine for Cecil Ventures, which I'm currently managing. Okay, so that was how I managed to raise my capital to start to buy my first machine. Okay, so 5 years in raising capital by doing all these menial jobs. At a point, even within that period, that pace of time, I have to even find myself producing pavement blocks. I have to buy the machine and then employ some of these young ones who are very good at producing blocks, whilst I am out there looking for contracts. Okay, so all sorts of these businesses came along the line whilst I was trying to build capital to start my actual dream objective in life, which I'm running now today at Cecil Ventures. So these are some of the strides I took. And having come into the sector, I picked up one of the profession called car wash. And obviously car wash in our society doesn't seem to be a service that is well regarded or respected, because it doesn't carry any much dignity in our society for somebody to say he's a car washer. But then I wanted to find out the essence of education. And so I believe education has got to do with value addition. And so if I've gone to learn and have gotten knowledge in how to manage a business, how to run a business, how to manage customers in terms of customer service and all that, how do I put these things into use? I need to be able to implement it in the business space. So I picked up this business called car wash and added value to it. And so it did not become a car wash again, because I did research about car maintenance. And so the car maintenance research I made revealed quite a number of things to me within the car care space. And so the car maintenance goes beyond just the mechanical aspect, which is about maintaining the engine and the moving parts of the vehicle. It has to do also with the occupancy of the vehicle, which is the interior, and then the protective unit of the vehicle, which is the exterior. It will interest you to know that most of the materials and products that have been used to manufacture this aspect of the vehicle have special products and chemicals and materials for maintaining and caring for them. And apparently, these are some of the services they provide in Europe. That is why some of these cars come in, we call them home use, and they're still looking very good, even after they've been used for a period of time, because they apply the holistic car care maintenance culture on these vehicles, which is really inculcated in their culture of maintenance over there. But unfortunately, in our jurisdiction here, it is much of mechanical maintenance and just the basic car wash. And so the other aspect, which is the interior and exterior care for the cars, is what we call the car detailing, which is the interior exterior maintenance care for the vehicle. So I do that in supplement to the mechanical to get the holistic maintenance culture of the car, which gives you a good resale value at the time of resale of your vehicle. And so I was able to add a lot of value to that space of work. When I started it in the year 2000, there wasn't a single viable commercial detailing center in Ghana to the best of my knowledge. And so to start it was also quite a challenging thing because it was quite a new concept in a new environment. But I targeted a niche market, especially the corporate organizations, and tried to pitch my products to them. And gradually, some of them bought into the idea. And I built the whole concept gradually until it got to a stage where even state protocol engaged my services to detail presidential ceremonial vehicles, which I did over a decade, spanning from ex-President Kufuor. Okay, so this gave a leverage to the fact that the informal sector businesses are informal because of lack of proper structures put in place to run them. And if you add value, you are educated and you are able to add value to whatever business you pick up within the informal sector by applying the knowledge you acquire from school, you'll be able to lift the game in that service or product line that you are operating in. And it's been good. I've run this thing and it has been quite a great business I've run to this moment. And so this is how I picked up media jobs and picked up challenging businesses within the informal sector, put it together, and I've come this far.
Awesome, awesome. I don't have any questions yet, so I'll just go ahead with mine.
Yeah.
So what are some of the character traits or the values or the factors that helped you to keep moving, even in the space, in the face of all the challenges that you faced? What are some of the things that kept you
going? I think passion is one. Passion is one, and then the drive to ensure that you get yourself financially secured for the future to keep body, soul, and spirit alive. Now, there is that drive in the system where we have a lot of graduates coming out from the universities and then crying out and calling out for jobs, which is worthy of them to cry out for the jobs. But then at the next thing you want to look at is when you look out for that job and it's not forthcoming, you want to take up the initiative yourself. Now, the initiative comes and the job availabilities become available more probably within the informal sector. However, because of the stigma associated to the fact that being a graduate and going to pick a job within the informal sector becomes a no-go area. Okay, so one would rather prefer to be unemployed than probably pick up a job and be stigmatized. It's really heavy. I felt it. I really went through that where you seems not to be well regarded in the sector you are operating in until they realize there is a value on you having been able to penetrate the market and have been able to put yourself out there with quite good appearance or brand surrounding you, then you begin to see some form of appeal coming your way. But if you are not able to add value to that business, you still have some form of stigma surrounding you operating there, even from your peers and even some customers. Okay, so that is one of the challenging things. But then the drive is having the passion and being able to apply the knowledge acquired from school and packaging and positioning yourself well in the industry you are operating. And so the ethical value in business operation is also one thing I tend to pay a lot of attention to. Within the business space, if you are not too careful and you just want to follow the monetary traits, you might end up having certain value systems that might not help you sustain the business. And so ethical values in business operation is one critical thing I always tend to pay a lot of attention to in running my business, and paying a lot of attention also to customer service, which is one key thing. And so having asked that, I would just want to share some 5 cardinal principles I have leveraged on to have driven me to have come this far, which is what I call the quality product or service that you are marketing. Whatever product or service that you have your hands on, you want to ensure that it is a product that will be highly in demand and you are giving out a very good product or service that you are rendering out there, and then having an excellent marketing strategy and sales to out there to be able to ensure that your product is always being known and well marketed, that it will be appealing to people to want to patronize them. And you want to focus a lot attention on your customers, whom I always call as your capital, because whatever money you raise in a day, for instance, at your business space, was brought to you by customers. And so it is the customer that tends to supply you cash in your business. And so you don't want to joke with your customers. And so you also well brand your business. And by putting all these 5 cardinal principles together very well, then you are assured of growth and sustainability of your business. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You also mentioned that you did research in order to add value to the car wash business. So where did you do the search? How did you go about it? So that people also want to like example.
Right. Now, one interesting thing about that was, or what actually led me into that, was I realized the car wash as an industry, which was not really well valued, and having had my education, I was open up to a lot of knowledge when it comes to maintenance. So I have to fall a lot on social media, because that was the only way I could reach out to the other side to get to know what happens or pertains to the other side of the world. However, there was a challenge during that time when I was doing this research. So I have to resort to a lot of peer questionings. So I have to approach companies, I have to approach individuals who have lived outside the country. I have to approach some of the automobile companies, asking them questions pertaining to the other aspects of this business. And so that was how I began to get my information. People who had experience in the space of engineering, people who have traveled out trying to find out some of the service deliveries within the automobile industry. Because around the year 2000, it wasn't that easy to have access to Facebook. I really didn't know anything about Facebook around that time. Maybe it was a scare. If it had existed, I really didn't know. I didn't have access to it. Internet was also another challenge for one to have access to. Those were very expensive moments to want to have access to those things. And I didn't have that. And so I have to leverage on friends. I have to leverage on some customers, because I have to start with a car wash thing to attract a certain class of people. Then I took advantage to want to be interviewing them towards what I want to know within that area I was operating in. So gradually, then the internet came up, Facebook came up, and so I fell on much research on the net, online, to be able to gather more of the information to help me expand my knowledge and scope within the space I'm operating in now.
Okay, thanks for the information. Yes, like Paul has just said, we are learning a lot, and we're going to run with them, and hopefully we'll be successful in our various ventures.
Yeah.
So I'll allow for questions now. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself and then go ahead and ask a question. Let me check the YouTube and see if there are any comments or questions there. Let's see. Okay, so there's nothing here yet. Any questions? Anybody? Okay. And Ms. Awumee, if there's anything else you'd like to share with us from you. Okay, I'm seeing a question. Okay. There are two questions here.
Okay.
First one says, talking about business ethics, sometimes the dictates of business is to violate ethical rules in order to stay in competition, because if you fail to bend the rules, your competitors will beat you. Did you face such unethical practice, and how did you cope with it?
Yes, I faced it, and what I tend to, the position I hold to that is having a competitive edge. Now, I don't need to break certain rules because I have competitors who might take advantage. They want to take advantage, but I try to build on the product or brand I have to target a niche market. And so I always try to learn, research, and add value to the services I provide. Now, even in the area of customer service, how you will be able to even manage your customers alone can give you a competitive edge for which you don't need to bend the rule. So for instance, there was a situation where a contract that was coming my way worth over 20,000 Ghana cedis. But then the sort of kickbacks that would have gone with it, I wasn't ready to do that, because this person came in and was looking for that increased invoicing that I should give out. All right. Now, here it was that his boss was a customer at my space and knows our charges. And so to want to even bend the rule just to win that big thing. Now, the integrity aspect, because I started this business based on integrity, and it's helped me to have come this far. So it becomes very difficult for me to want to overlook what is right just because of competition, to bend the rules, just want to gain money. Now, money is not actually the foundation on which I build a business, but I build a business based on quality product and service delivery. And if you are able to brand your product and services on that front, you guarantee yourself much sustainability than trying to bend the rules, because you will bend the rule, it can come back to bite you at a later time. Okay, and so I tend to focus a lot on growth and sustainability, and I use that as the foundation in designing my policy makeups, okay, of the business. And so competition can be there, but to overcome competition, you want to look at what competitive edge you can have as against your competitors that can keep you in business, rather than looking at just the monetary gains. If the monetary gain becomes the main reason for which you want to stay in business, then I think you might be having some challenges later. That is my view on that. So ethical values in business operation is critical for sustainability and growth of your business. Yeah.
Okay, well said. It's very important to add value. carve your niche, be unique in what you're doing, so that you will draw the people. You don't have to like I don't know whether it's a Ghanaian saying, but it says your works will
speak for itself. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you don't have to cut corners and get into kululus here and there.
Yeah.
So,
sometimes you end up probably bending the rules because probably you don't have much up your sleeve.
Yeah.
If you have much up your sleeve to outwit or beat your competitors to which customers will need those extra services you are providing or the unique brands around you to want to come. You don't need to struggle it out. So you just need hard work to be able to add good value to the product and service you are supplying. And you don't need to bend the rules at all if you really want to sustain. And that is one of the critical factors that sustain my business to have gone over 2 decades now. Because when my failure occurred, immediately I bounced back and the brand surfaced again. It wasn't too much of a struggle for me to get customers because I had put in certain value systems in the brand and customers knew what I could deliver. And so when they realized I had come back just by the name, I did not struggle to have my customers back. And so that is a sustainability measure that I put in place. But if I have to be bending the rules just to win the customers, that means I don't have much to present. And so once I don't have much to present, no one really sees me as a unique brand to want to associate with. And so it would have been a big challenge for me to bounce back. So you want to build a brand that can sustain you. Even in times of failure, you don't have to shout and scream to call for market. Just by the name, you have the market following you.
And how long can you even keep up cutting corners? I mean, at a point, you get tired.
that is the issue. Yes.
Come out. Yeah. Thank you. So the next question. Okay, he says, what would you say was the biggest challenge you faced as an entrepreneur?
The biggest challenge I actually faced as an entrepreneur has been managing staff, worker attitude. The attitude of staff towards work can be one big challenge, I believe, for every entrepreneur, especially working in our space here in the informal sector. Worker attitude can be good enough to help you close your business. And for the past 2 months or so, I've met quite a number of my business colleagues who are just at the verge of closing down their businesses because of worker attitude. All right. Some of them don't have the full time for their business. So they seem to have employed some people managing their business whilst they're also trying to strive in other sectors in terms of being in the white collar job environment whilst they open businesses within the informal sector and get people to manage it for them. And apparently some of the experiences and stories, when you hear it, is so much heartbreaking. Personally here, even though because of that, actually, I am into it full time. And even being in it full time, the challenges that you encounter is quite enormous. And it's not an easy thing. So if you ever ask me of the biggest challenge I've ever faced as an entrepreneur, it's about managing the staff within the informal sector.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question on that, but I would want you to address the question here, then I'll ask mine. And Comfort says, and she's realized you've got so much ideas about business and the food for thought are very insightful. However, you spoke about losing your marriage in the process of the survival of the business. Just asking, did you manage to revive your marriage?
Okay. I couldn't. But then life must go on. So I don't want to really have a reflection on what is past. My projection is always what is ahead and what I can do best, to achieve greater moments into the future. So because I did a lot of stress management in the period of time, and to be able to overcome the challenges I was going through, coupled with business failure, marriage failure, and all that, I had to take a lot of drastic decisions to be able to overcome the stress, because moments like that have caused a lot of men or business people to collapse their businesses. Okay, they've gone down and could not pick up themselves up, because you need a peaceful mind to be able to focus and think and reason through things to be able to achieve heights. And so if you don't position yourself such that you can have a clear conscience and a clear mind to think straight, focus, and plan, you might not be able to resurrect. You'll be dead for good, you know, and that would have actually happened to me if I could not manage that space very well. And so it got to a stage where I have to completely relocate such that I stay away from friends, because I didn't need sympathy. Because in the moment of entertaining sympathy in moments like that, you might not see the urge to want to fight harder and spring back on your feet. You will want to be leveraging on friends' empathy, sympathy to be surviving. And so that would have been probably a cushion for you to think you'll be able to make it through that. But how long can friends, loved ones hang around you to survive you? They can only do for a period. And so I personally don't really try to want to leverage on sympathy and empathy. I want to walk the journey. I want to go through the process. No matter how painful it is, you go through it, you come back, you come out, and you are able to have a solid foundation to build. And so moving forward is my objective, not turning back to see what is left behind. Yeah, what is left behind belongs to the past. What is left ahead is what matters. Yeah, so I had to do a lot of psychological, get myself well psychologically prepared, firm up my beliefs and ideologies strongly to be able to have come this far. It's not been an easy task, managing the two challenges together. But if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been able to come this way. Yeah.
Wow. You're made of tough stuff.
Yes.
That's really, really impressive. Yeah. So apart from relocating, what else did you do? You mentioned.
Yes. In fact, the whole idea was not to be in an environment where I'll be empathized with. So I even have to change my church, be out of where I could have friends who can meet me and try to empathize with me. So I went off-site. So there are some friends who meet me today and didn't know I have gone through any challenge. Okay, they only saw me spring back on my feet. So I went on the quiet, on the low profile, and taking the steps to be out of the situation. So I didn't go on the low profile to keep myself in there, but I went on the low profile, taking cognizance of what were the mistakes I made. What can I do to overcome those mistakes? Where I need to educate myself, I went back to school. Where I need to relocate my business, I have to take that step. So I put all these patches together, and then I put myself together again before I launched.
Wow.
Yes.
This is amazing, and this is really impressive. I mean, it takes someone with a very strong mind and, like you said, passion and focus to be able to do this. I would, however, want to say that it's not all bad, is it, to reach out for help? But in reaching out for help, like you said, you shouldn't put your everything into whoever is helping or whichever source the help is coming from. You need to take a stand on your own. You know, whatever advice you're even given, even in everyday life, whatever we're going through, people will advise us, people will direct us in one way or the other. But we need to take the final decision.
Yeah.
What we want to do and how we want to apply the things that we have. This is a very valuable lesson. Thank you so much. Okay, so Comfort says that Wow, there's a need to be very strong-minded. Yeah, to be a very strong-minded individual. Thank you very much. Mr. Awumee, are you still there? Or it's from me that your video is frozen. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So I think he's frozen.
I think, yeah. So his.
You can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Let's see if he'll come back. All right. Oh, he's gone off. Okay. Wow. This has been a very insightful session. I'm really learning a lot, and especially about being strong-minded. Comfort, I so agree with you. I mean, it will take some intellectual strength, you know, strong mental health, I mean, and strength to be able to stand in such situations. And unfortunately, these days, a lot of people are looking for the easy way out of situations. They are always looking to cut corners. They're always looking to achieve things quickly. We don't have the patience and the resilience to stand and confront the challenges that we face. I'm hoping that this will help all of us as we embark on our entrepreneurial journeys, come up with quality products and services. Let's see whether he's back. He's still off. Okay, if anyone has any contribution, please, you can unmute yourself and let's talk. Does anyone have any business? Has anyone started any business? What are your experiences? Can you share with us? Hello? Hello? Anyone? Can you hear me? Hello?
Hi.
Okay. I was getting worried that probably I had gone off.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm talking about starting a business. I have tried many times, and although I failed some of them, and the biggest challenge was in 2013 when someone I employed to work with my car ran away with the car, and up to date I couldn't find a person. And so he was talking about the HR system in the country, and I think it's a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, I supply electrical cables, and every day I have to. They always beat me around it, but then it's been a challenge when it comes to the integrity issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on the part of the employees and customers, you mean?
Employees, yes, employee.
Okay.
For example, in 2013, the issue, I was working in an office where I was so much busy. Sometimes, even on Sundays, I'll go to work, and there were times that I had to sleep at the office and all that. So it was difficult to get in touch with him often. And the time it took me almost a week to realize that the guy had run away with the car.
Was it a car rental business?
No, it was like we was going to from homes to pick empty gas and then go and fill them and bring them back and all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear.
And he ran away with it. And now I remember when I finished at first. We started room-to-room delivery, food delivery, and somehow along the line, we also had issue with people we employed to deliver the food, and somehow along the line, we were cut off because our agents were cutting corners, and by the time we realized, people who already owned kitchen in Legon had taken over the market. We were the first people to start food delivery, but we couldn't survive in the competition because of the people we employed. There were times I had to do the room-to-room delivery myself, but then we couldn't do it all alone.
So sorry to hear about that. You're welcome, Mr. Awumee. So we're talking about employees and integrity, and basically just sharing his sad experience of first, someone he was working with who he gave his vehicle to be supplying gas. You know, these vehicles that carry gas cylinders, and the person ran away with his car. And he was also doing room delivery of food, and the employees weren't, you know, that's together. So what are, so it's kind of linked to my question as well. You mentioned hard work. It seems like these days most of us are not ready to work hard. You know, we want things quickly, so we're not committed to what we do. What can you say about how to handle employees and all the challenges that come with them? And my sister has a food business, and I mean, I see her frustration so many times.
I'm actually not surprised about her challenge, her plight. It's actually one of the major problems we encounter within the informal space. If your monetary and control systems are not good enough, they'll always outwit you. And so it's an environment where when you set up a business, you probably want to be directly involved in managing and operating that business, or you don't even want to try it at all, because it's such a big pain. So for instance, look at what Madame went through, you know, taking away an entire vehicle, and they don't care, you know, even give them the best you can offer. They'll demand even your head. You know, it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate environment we find ourselves in. And I think partly is also as a result of the kind of orientation we have through our educational system. Okay, it look as though it's that easy out there to make a living. That is the form of impression that is created. So back in the university, you are being prepared to be employed and not much prepared to be self-employed. Okay. And so if you don't give the right mindset to students and they come out of school, that entitlement mentality form of an orientation is what they bring into the business space. Okay. Now, there is also this unfortunate phenomenon that is coming up, which is even going to entrench that the more, where students find it very easy to have to come out of school. And so you can imagine the kind of entitlement mentality they'll bring into the society. So for instance, you make it very easy for students to come out of school, and you are, instead of making them more creative and oriented in being able to develop things for themselves and by researching, we're now going to probably even make it easier for them to write their exams by providing them with past questions. Okay, this phenomenon, I believe, is going to kill and destroy much of our human capital base than help it. So our students, our children will, for instance, go to school for as long as they can gamble questions to pass their exams. Tell me what will motivate them to want to learn. Tell me what will motivate them to want to research. All right? Because past question form of writing exam is about gambling. So I have enormous past questions. All I need to do is to study to find out which question is likely to drop or not. I gamble over it, and then I come out with my first class. I come on the job field or come to industry. What am I going to be able to do? So I want to look for quick ways to survive. And so quick way to survive, you go and employ somebody like this. What you experience is exactly what Madam have expressed. Okay, they'll only want to find sharp ways to make money. And so because they've not been challenged to be able to research and find answers for themselves. And you know, writing an exams or getting students prepared through school, write an exams in the hard way and come out successful, it's not just about having the certification. It's about preparing their mindset to know that challenges in the world require research to find solutions. And so practically, that person come out of school knows that there are difficult situations ahead, and they know how to manage and maneuver through the difficult situations, find answers to make a living. But if you make things so easy for them to not to struggle to find answers, imagine how they will apply that in industry. Okay, so that's the form of orientation, some of the orientation we're having from school that is affecting the mindset of some of us coming out of school, and then we apply that in industry, which is really affecting the entire society. Okay, so if you ask me, I would say educational orientation is a contributing factor.
Okay, so would you advise some form of training if the person is able to for their employees, and how does that affect the people staying, or how does that influence their decision to stay within the organization after going through that training?
Please, if you can come up with a question again.
So we're talking about how employees are unable to, work effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is orientation.
Okay.
And the fact that they don't have the requisite skills because of how education is here. So would it be wise to take them through the requisite training so that they can get a hang of their tasks? And is there a risk of losing them, after? Yeah,
I think training them is critical because you can also not do without them. You definitely will need them. So you say that they are the necessary evil. Okay. And so training is key and paramount in this space. So for instance, the nature of business I do will mainly attract either school dropouts, JSS, and SS graduates. Okay, so I have to put in a lot of training mechanisms in place to be able to give them an orientation, technical training on the field, orientation in terms of even management skills, trying to also give them an orientation that will see them to realize why they have to work and how to even treat customers, how to manage even business. So I usually have various training programs for them that include both the soft and the hard skills. Before I even joined the meeting, I will engage them with a meeting for almost like an hour after we had closed to reorient them because there was some observation I have made and have to quickly address it so that it will be on point. Okay, it will be timely so that the communication will be very effective. So time in, time out, I have to keep monitoring and observing areas that I realize are lacking. I call them together. So we keep having meetings, at very short intervals to keep addressing situations. Some succumb to the situation, others still want to remain adamant. And so at a point, I need to fire and hire. Okay, so there's a mix, and you find some who also tends to submit to advice and are ready to, conform to the norm and make things work well. So in a nutshell, you get some who will stay back because they buy into the idea with you, they share your dream with you, but there are some also who don't really see it. So you keep siphoning them until you're able to get a team that you can really leverage on to get business running. And so training is key. Very, very, very paramount. If you don't, productivity will be almost in the negative.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, Paul is saying, I agree with him. Education, dear. We need more hubs to bridge the school industry gaps with such teaching. Yeah, but it's a shame. I don't know what can be done to bring about a change in our educational system. I don't know where we're going to start from and how long it would take to change things, because it seems like it's even getting worse.
It's about a policy plan. No, it's about first being futuristic in nature. Okay, first being futuristic in nature to want to see where do we want to be in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. What is the kind of human capital base we need to be able to manage the system across that period of time? And so when human capital development becomes key, and we know the caliber of human capital we need to be able to drive a particular policy program, then that then informs the kind of educational curricula you put in place. So first, you need to have a future plan. You are looking at 50 to 100 years plan even there. Because where will this nation be in the next 50 years? In the next 100 years, where do we need to be? We might not be alive, but where do we want to leave the legacy and the future generation for? How do they become? We need to plan that for them. All right? When we plan it for them, they then come and they are able to follow and take it across. So if we plan and know that in the next 50 years, Ghana should be like this. This is the kind of society we want to form. A society that is loyal to the nation. A society that cares. A society that have value system. Now you want to even ask, what is the culture of the Ghanaian? All right? We almost are losing it all out.
Yeah.
Okay? We rather prefer to adapt somebody's culture and we pride in that one rather than our own.
We do it even more than the people.
You understand? Exactly. You see, so you take a country, for instance, like Rwanda. They tend to adapt exactly what they have. Look at the Chinese people. They are not speaking English, speaking their own language, but doing so much with their own culture.
Yeah.
So who are we? Have we thought of it? What are we leaving for the next generation? If we are able to have this long-term plan, then we want to say, okay, we need a certain human capital to be able to drive this objective or plan we have for the nation across this period of time. So in terms of having that type of human capital, then let's put this type of curricula in place that will make them innovative and creative. Just like in the educational system, we have the Ghana Education Service System, and then we have the, how do you call it, the UK one?
GCSE or something.
Yeah, there is this, the British curricula.
Yeah.
Good. So they have the Ghana curricula, then the British curricula. Now, look at how children who go through this British curricula system are trained. And look at how ours are trained. Ours is more of pass, learn and pass. These people chew, pour, pass, and forget. These people are more of creative and innovation. You understand? So if it is about just credentials, whatever you go through to come out and get your credential, pass it. You know, so that's why I was surprised even a professor could say that our responsibility is just to get the students to pass. You understand? So if this is the kind of orientation we're giving to these ones, how do we build that requisite human capital to be able to drive an objective? Do we even have an objective? Do we have a plan for 50 years? Do we have a plan for 100 years? So obviously, our curricula is addressing almost nothing.
That's true.
That is it. Yeah. Our curricula is addressing almost nothing. Because if our curricula is really addressing something, honestly, my personal opinion, this past question thing should not even come on the line. Else, what are you helping the students with? by the introduction of this. Even the previous system that we said, the system was tight. Look at the human capital base that are product of that system. How much have we been able to achieve? And then now that you are introducing this, then you can imagine the kind of human capital we'll be producing thereafter.
Yeah. There's a lot of that needs to be. That's why we need to harness our entrepreneurial skills.
That is it.
Encourage us to come out even in the face of challenges and pursue whatever cause that we set our minds to. We all have talents and gifts that God has given us, and He expects us to use it for the good of humanity. Not necessarily even for ourselves, but for the good of humanity. And hopefully, if we're able to do that, we'll bring about some change and sanity in our system. And Paul says that all of us want to survive instead of sustainable systems that will create a thriving people. That's true. Become more survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any more questions, please? I think there was a comment I missed. Okay. So I think it's coming from what you said about being hands-on and being there in your business. And someone is saying that thanks very much. The absentee business owner has been me, and it has never worked. Yeah, so it's important that you are present, in your business, physically and whichever way you can, to ensure that everything is being done. So that brings a question to mind. How do you get your employees to, at least buy a bit into your vision and your focus? I know it's not the same because you are the one who knows what you want and it's very authentic for you. What are some of the measures or the strategies to get the employees to try and see things the way you see it, so that they can come alongside you?
Yes, I use the bottom-up approach management strategy. Now, the bottom-up approach management strategy have really helped me so much in managing and dealing with my staff. So what I do is I get them to feel to be part of the business. I get them to understand the inputs and output of the business and then being part of it. And so I ask a question: why are you here? You are here because of survival needs. You want to make a living. You want to meet an objective. So for instance, I create that enabling environment where if any of them is ready to further their education, I allow them to pursue. And during vacation time, they come, work, raise some money, and then move on. Currently, I even have one gentleman who have enrolled at University of Ghana and working here with me. Okay, so when it's time for him to go to school, he goes. When they are on vacation, he comes around. And I encourage that form of system. So the question then is, why are you here? You are here to want to make a living, right? Coming to make a living here, there is no money box here. The money box need money to come in. And so you are coming to work, raise money into the money box. Then at the end of the month, we use the money in the money box, share amongst all of us in terms of salaries and pay the bills that will run the company and all that. So I make them feel part and get them to realize that without them, we are unable to raise that money to pay ourselves. Without them, we can't pay the bills. Without them, this business will cease from existing. And I believe when coming to work, they have walked past quite a number of businesses before getting here. The question is, why are they not working in those other business spaces? So having come here, so I actually work on their mindset to get them to feel part and parcel. So I don't just make it look like I'm the boss. And so you are just workers, giving instructions and you do. No, feel part. If you try to fail to be part of the system, then you are out of the system. And so most of the time they tend to feel belonged. They tend to feel they are part of the business. They own it. And so we all together with one accord try to drive the business. that is the kind of mindset I try to create among my staff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very important, because sometimes you go to certain businesses and the way the employees are behaving is more or less like, well, at the end of the month, I get my pay, so I don't care how I treat the customers. I'll just do it. They don't realize that it's smallest level of customer service contributes
a lot.
What sustains the company. Yeah. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Otherwise, we'll take the final remarks from Mr. Awumee and then round up here. I don't see any hands, so yes, please, if you have any final remarks for us, especially as Christians, I mean, we need to make a difference,
Okay. So my final remarks will be that I believe some of us on the platform are entrepreneurs. If you are an employee, you are much secured when it comes to finance, because at the end of the month, you are sure your employer is going to pay you your salary, and so you don't tend to have much issues to deal with. But then with the entrepreneur, my word to you will be, learn to be a master of solving challenges as an entrepreneur. If you don't learn, you don't appreciate challenges, and you get threatened by failures and challenges, your security within the entrepreneurial space could be challenged. And so do not see failure and challenges as a Christian and always term it as demonic. Some of the time, the failures and challenges that come our way as Christians are as a result of our own mistakes. But failure to admit our own mistakes and looking for someone to attribute the mistake on is where I believe some of us Christians tend to want to leverage on. And so we find ourselves entangled with problems, and then we keep probably, I will say, bothering God to solve the problem for us. Okay, because most of the time, we create the problems ourselves by taking certain decisions that we shouldn't have taken, by acting in certain ways we shouldn't have. The problem comes, instead of us admitting it, we want to throw it just to prayers. We want deliverance for it. And so the prayer will come, the deliverance will come. Either we are seeing solutions or we are not seeing solutions. Fine, if we see solution through a miraculous way, it comes up. But because we fail to recognize the fact that we have caused the earlier problem, we sort of find ourselves entangled in it again. But where you recognize that you are the cause of a particular problem and you take the steps to correct it, its reoccurrence becomes rare and helps you to sustain and keep yourself active. So failure should not always be attributed to demonic acts. We should be able to recognize it and deal with it sometimes on our own, because we have probably caused it. So we should focus a lot on business sustainability and growth as Christians, so that we be able to ease the pressure on our pastors from always asking them to pray for us over issues that probably we might have caused ourselves, and then put the devil under pressure. And so that would be my little advice in that direction, that failure, when it comes up, just see it as a learning curve to learn and overcome and move on.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sometimes we tend to over spiritualize things instead of being practical, and facing up to our responsibilities. May God guide us in his wisdom.
Amen.
So someone is asking about your book. They're asking what the title is, and also probably where it can be purchased.
All right. My book, as you have it here, it's entitled Against the Odds.
Okay.
Against the Odds. And it's like a case study. It's full of practical, realistic entrepreneurial issues that run through my life. And you can find some at the Bachona Total filling station. You can also find, let me just direct you to my website. When you go there and you click a link, it will give you all the various shops that you can find them in. So my website is www.cecilcoffeesession.
Can you please type it in the chat for us? And the Cecil.
Cecil.
We can please type it in the chat.
Oh, okay.
I'll pick it up and then share it.
Okay. Right. Let me. Okay.
Otherwise,
so.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me mention it, and later because I'm using the phone here because my laptop went down. So Cecil is SESESIL. Coffee session.
Coffee session.
Yeah.
Okay.
So www.cecilcoffeesession.com.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Once you get to the website, there's a link there that will face you straight in the eye. You just click it and it will take you to the various shops. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Thank
you
so
welcome.
Much, Mr. Awumee. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience. I believe that we've all learned a lot, and it's going to help us practically to be able to build our businesses, whatever venture we find ourselves in. And this has been the ABBY IMANI Reveals Show, where we speak, we are real so that we can live. And I want to say thank you to all of you too for coming and for your questions and your comments. Hopefully by God's grace, we'll meet again next week, same time. But before we go, Mr. Awumee,
yeah.
How can we get in touch with you apart from your website? Is there any other contacts?
Yeah, I'm on all the major social media handles. I'm on LinkedIn as Emmanuel Awumee.
Okay, let me.
LinkedIn as Emmanuel Awumee. Awumee is AWUMEE.
Okay.
Yes.
That's LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, yes. And then Facebook, I'm Emmanuel Awumee as well.
Okay.
At Emmanuel Awumee.
Right.
Yes. And then I'm on how do you call it? Instagram also.
Okay.
Emmanuel Awumee.
Okay.
Yes, Awumee. Yeah. And Twitter the same. Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Right.
Thank you once again for coming.
You're welcome. Right. Bye.
Paul, is Paul still there? Hello. Okay. All right. Shall we pray as we close? Father, we thank you so much for taking us through this session. Thank you for the lessons that you've taught us. Help us, Lord, to be able to take them and apply them. Help us to be diligent. Help us to have the spirit of excellence, Lord, to be able to use the gifts and the talents that you've given us. Help us not to be lazy, not to make excuses, but to face up to the challenges. You said we can do all things through you who gives us strength. So we are taking hold of this promise, and we're going to glorify you in whatever venture we find ourselves in. Thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so we've come to the end. I'll see you all next week. You can, as usual, unmute yourself and say bye. Or show your face if possible.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hi, Comfort.
Bye.
Wow.